Hey everybody, it is Tom Breeze here, and with me I have Mr.
Oli Wilson. How are you doing?
And welcome to another episode of Path to Purchase. Do you know what episode number this is, Oli, or not?
I have absolutely no idea.
We're in double digits there, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we have got an amazing episode for you today. Oli is going to be taking the reins on this one today. I'm going to be talking about SMS, or I presume that means text messaging, to customers or prospects, I presume, to get them to turn into customers, or customers to turn into repeat customers. And today, Ollie's going to nail this one. He's going to go into so much amazing information. I don't actually have a clue what Ollie's going to be talking about, but I'm going to be asking questions like the person that knows nothing, and like I am typically in most scenarios. And Ollie is going to give me all the data and all the information that you, Mr. Listener, and me, Mr. Also Listener in this scenario, to go implement some of this information and use it in our businesses. So Ollie, go for it, far away.
You're such a backseat driver. That's exactly what this is. What you're saying.
We'll change the name of the podcast to Breeze Backseat Driver.
Yeah. Well, I just wouldn't be able
to... You do the work. See you later.
Yeah. I wouldn't be able to articulate all this information if it wasn't for such a proficient and experienced interviewer as you are.
Just get on with it, mate.
That's so deep conditioning. Cool. So we're going to talk about SMS now. I have just had a crazy stint in America, and I was speaking at Super Conference, and I've just arrived back from Icon, and both the trips were all great. But one of the trips, I put together a slightly left field presentation from what I'd usually talk about, which is about SMS and text marketing, mobile marketing, 3 different ways to say it, I suppose, and how virtually any business, whether you're a bricks and mortar business, information marketer, coach, trainer, consultant, author, speaker, or as some people say, industry transformer, really any business.
Industry transformer?
Yeah.
Is that a new thing?
Well, I don't think I made it up, quite honestly. I just thought.
Did you just make it up there on the spot? I
thought it sounded pompous and just really not me. So I decided to use it in the presentation.
Nice.
Really, for anyone. And now on this podcast. So really, why is this important? Let me address this off the bat. So some of you may have realized that mobile phones and in particular have in recent years really outstripped any not necessarily outstripped purchasing of laptop computers or PCs, but everybody has a mobile phone these days, and with that comes an opportunity, but it's an opportunity that needs to be harnessed in the right way. Can
we just repeat that amazing fact that you brought up, that nearly everyone has a mobile phone these days? I think that's like groundbreaking.
Thank you. No, it's integral. It's totally integral to this presentation, but I thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If you haven't heard it before, you've heard it here first on this podcast, Path to Purchase, that a lot of people have mobile phones.
Yes.
Ollie Bilson. Can we get like an Instagram image of that? Like, get the quotes.
Yeah.
That'd be nice to see.
When I was thinking about that, I was thinking about something much bigger, something much more impactful that I was going to mention. And then I ended up saying something really stupid. But thanks for highlighting.
No, I haven't picked up on it at all.
Good humour. So with this comes the opportunity to connect with the device that are in people's pockets, because that's where mobile phones live, apparently, Tom. Well,
actually, mine's on the table right now. But just to add to that, actually, mobile traffic surpassed desktop and tablet traffic on YouTube very recently, a couple of months ago. And also, I saw a very interesting bit of information as well. I'm not going to remember exactly the stat, but there is information out there right now that says that a lot of the younger generation, when their laptop stops working, they are not inclined to go and buy another one. It's just not.
Interesting.
They're just like, okay, do you know what? The mobile's got good enough. So they stick with the mobile. They may also have a desktop at work, for example, that's supplied to them, but they don't go and buy another personal laptop, which I think is fascinating, because when I was growing up, it was before laptops, and then when laptops came out, it was like essential. You had to have one in order to be able to do any work. And now they're phasing out again. So it's amazing how technology moves so quickly. But you're right, everyone's got a mobile, everyone uses it extensively. It's not something we used to use every now and again. It's like you're constantly on it. And so it's very, very interesting. So I was mocking you earlier, but I actually would like to take that back and say that you are taking us down a very interesting path here.
Thank you.
A path to purchase.
I appreciate that. So a couple of things that we know about how, specifically, how this kind of modality plays a part in marketing as we know it. Text messaging is less intimidating to most people. That's a fact. I mean, sometimes people don't really like speaking on the phone. And so if you receive a text message, it certainly isn't intimidating to reply back to that text message or to discount it one way or another. But there's one thing for sure, there's a lot less emotional energy that's involved with texting as there is often with emailing or there is on a desktop experience. It feels that if you're on a desktop, you've got this, especially if you're composing an email, it almost feels quite formal and has a different feeling about it, as opposed to, simply texting something back or receiving a text message. It's definitely a different feeling. Of course, from a marketing standpoint, and bringing it back to that, if you have somebody's mobile telephone number, then you can text them, but also texting can often be the gateway to actually getting somebody on the telephone and having a conversation with them. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about that as we go through this, which is the kind of the advent of this bridge that we can create to begin to elicit a conversation via text message to begin with, and then move those people then to a telephone call. Now, in a lot of the presentations that I've been recently giving, often when I ask people, how many of you in your businesses require you to actually speak to somebody to actually move them either further down to making a buying decision or to make a buying decision, most people put their hands up. Yes, there are e-commerce type businesses out there, and there are other businesses that don't require you to speak to somebody. But as we know it, people are becoming a lot more aware that even in e-commerce businesses, they can reach out to not prospects, but actual customers to delight them. And a good way of starting that conversation can sometimes be with a text message. And that really becomes interesting when you bring this channel together with sales, where marketing can meet sales, and really create kind of a seamless transition where one began and the other one picks up from where it left off, as it were. So with mobile marketing, specifically with text marketing, then we've got a good opportunity of doing that. And so this has been talked about a lot recently in terms of the metrics that go around thinking about this, that I think recently at Traffic and Conversion, this was kind of a buzz thing where, you'd think about a cost per lead, and they're actually monitoring cost per conversation, which is interesting. Now, they were talking about that in the medium of Facebook Messenger ads and Facebook Messenger as a whole, and ManyChat, and how all of that kind of plays a role with this. Where
that's all the bots and stuff, right?
Sorry, what's that?
That's like, you talk about like Facebook Messenger with the bots and things like that.
Yeah, exactly. Now, that's definitely going to become more prevalent, and I think we'll probably talk about that certainly a little bit deeper in other episodes. In this regard, it's exactly the same. Really, how can you use text marketing to elicit a response and ultimately create a conversation? What is the cost of that conversation? And so think of it this way. When you receive a text message, as we were just saying before, it is a very different feeling to when you get an email. Emails now are, certainly for me anyway, becoming, I wouldn't quite say overwhelming, but we get countless emails a day trying to get our attention. And every marketer, every business under the sun is reaching out through email. And so we're in a competitive vacuum. We are trying to jockey for people's attention. And so when we can reach out to people in a different type of modality, be it text marketing, text messages, then not only does that feel different to the person receiving it, but you're more likely to be able to then begin the conversation than you are whether somebody comes back and replies for email, for example. And so the difference that I make between email marketing and text marketing is this. It's a bit like with email marketing, you're trying to push people. You're trying to push people towards an offer that you've got, the next step, the next milestone, the next thing that they didn't do, the contingency in the funnel that you're trying to take them back to, all of that complicated stuff. With text marketing, it's really a case of pulling them, using that as a way to pull people through rather than push people through. And so really, it brings us back to the fact that, you know, we do more now based on relationships than we've ever done with logic. So when you can nurture that relationship, and more importantly, when you can use different media to nurture that relationship, then it gives you that opportunity to create meaningful conversations that ultimately may lead to sales, or keep customers. It may be more of a customer service type thing that you might be using it for.
So run me through an example. So like, because I often see a presentation, and at the end of it, often people say, text this number now, and we'll send you a copy of our slides, or we'll send some sort of freebie that they have available during that presentation. I see that quite a bit. I don't see a huge number of promotions where it's like, leave your name, email, and telephone number.
Oh, I'm glad you asked that. I'm glad you said that.
Okay, cool. But I don't see that many. Maybe that's the secret weapon we've got coming up here.
Well,
Talk to me about like what it would typically look like as a business owner. So how would you set it up? How would you capture people's text messaging numbers? What sort of text would you send? I suppose it's going to be different for different businesses, sure. But like, could you give me an example of what that would kind of look like?
Sure. Well, I think it might surprise people that you can be capturing, meaning you're actually getting somebody's mobile phone number to begin a conversation with them in lots of different ways. For example, these days, there is a tap to text function that can be built into virtually any website on a button. So actually, when you go to a website, instead of there being a call to action button that says, click to opt in or whatever the call to action is, when they tap that, mainly because they're on a mobile phone, they can tap it and it'll immediately open their text message and pre-fill it with a keyword. Now, that's quite interesting because now you're 2 taps away with a conversation, whereas somebody opting into a form on a website, and don't get me wrong, this should be in support of a lot of those other types of tactics out there. That's what I'm suggesting. But when you're giving people multiple ways to respond, that may work out better for you. Now, if you know that all of your traffic is mobile coming to you, or virtually all of it is, why wouldn't you have a button, a tap to text on your website? And the beauty is you can set the context. You can set the context of the reason why they are pressing that button on your website. For example, if you were a SaaS business, a software business, and you had a tap to text, and the text message keyword that they got was demo, you know the context around that tap is that person wants to have a conversation about setting up a demo for your software, for example. Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's text to quote. So if you're on your services business, bricks and mortar business, and you want to start a conversation around a quotation, then somebody could tap and it would pre-fill the keyword with quote, and that would come into your system. And then you can immediately having a 2-way text message conversation with them. Now, I'll talk about the software that we use to do this, because, you know, we can't just do this with, you know, average Joe technology. We have to think about some affordable but applicable to everybody ways of doing this. And there's a couple of text message.
Can I just ask you a quick question before you go into the thing you use for it? Yeah. So if you're on somebody's website, I can understand from a mobile. So say, for example, they come to my mobile website, then you would have to tap. I presume that literally is a tap of the finger, and it then just pre-fills the form. You press send, and then it kind of says, quote, demo, whatever it wants to be. I get that. Do you do that? Do you still do that from the desktop?
So we conditionally serve that button up when we know what the traffic is that's coming into us.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so you can dynamically serve that up without, you know, needing to worry about, you know, that again. Obviously, if it's desktop traffic coming towards you and you've got a tap to talk, then that's going to be a little bit more. Well, you can't do it. You know, it's not going to bring up iMessage on your computer, or at least at the moment it doesn't. Depending upon the traffic that's coming towards us, we can dynamically serve up that button. But of course, sorry, go on. I was going to say that.
I was going to say it's such an entrepreneurial moment that you just said that. It's like, it's not that they start like open up iMessage on your computer, and I can almost like see your head spinning of like that should be that service. I'll go and create that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That work. Sorry, carry on. It's just a little moment I saw.
I mean, the thing is with like capturing people's information and the context around it, it doesn't like. Website's a bit more of an obscure thing, so we are kind of in the weeds a little bit about the application. Other things that work really well, podcasts like we are here. I could say, if you want to get the show notes, then text keyword to this number.
I love that. That's cool.
So that's a good way of capturing it. And of course, what can happen from this, and just to give people what the mechanism behind it, when you text in with that keyword, there is an automated conversation that begins. It will say, hey, thanks for requesting the show notes. Then it would say, what's your name? My name's Tom. When you text back, it goes into Infusionsoft, creates record with your phone number that you've already texted in from, and adds your first name to the contact record. So now I've got your phone number and I've got your name. And then it will say, hey, Tom, where do you want me to send you the slides? Which email is that?
That's so cool.
Now I've got through a series of messages, and most people, I don't know the exact percentage, but I in my experience, it's been like 95% of people fill out, you know, when that's going backwards and forwards, as long as it feels like more of a human conversation. You probably know it's not, but you just want the value that you've asked for, really, you know, then it's fine. Just you get all the information, and now I've got your email, your name, and I've got your mobile phone number. So what more could I want?
Really cool. So like, okay, so here's an issue then. So like, I have just written my book. I'm going through the editing stage right now. They sent it back to me. I'm gonna have a look at it. When someone reads the book, I don't necessarily want them to be reading it. Let's say, for example, it's the physical paperback book, for example. I don't want them to necessarily go to their computer to go and download some additional notes or something like that. So I could actually have in the text somewhere, if you want to get the download to your phone of chapter 5 that supports what we're talking about here, click here. Or not click here, but text in this number, text this word to this number or something along those lines. Or if they're listening to an audiobook, which I always do, and they always say, oh, if you go and check out the resources on the computer or on www.thingy, I never do that because I'm like, I've not got access. I can't remember what they're saying. I can't access it quickly. I have to then go and do a Google. I have to set up a whole user profile and things. But if they were to just say, text in this number, I would do that, which is amazing. So like, I'm thinking about that now for the book, which is really cool.
Yeah, the beauty is as well, and we see this in offline advertising all the time. In fact, text messages outstrips our vanity URL response mechanism and our tracking number phone mechanism on direct mail and display advertising and magazine advertising. Because guess what? Like you said, people aren't in front of a goddamn computer when they're wanting to respond. There's a congruency between where they are, the context of where they are, and the fact that they've got a mobile phone. That was a mobile phone case, by the way. No mobile phone.
Yeah, nice though. I like it.
Yeah,
so this is what you could have had. Yeah.
You know, if you're reading a magazine and you see an advert that you want to respond to, and if it's a lead generation ad, we do this all the time for requesting free information packs, prospectuses, brochures, that type of thing. The chances are you're not next to your laptop, and to go and key in a vanity URL, even if it's plain dead simple, is a pain.
Yeah, you've got to open up the browser, you've got to do this, and you've got to hopefully got your connection and all that sort of stuff.
And I don't want to call them. Yeah, I don't want to call them because then I know I'm going to have a sales conversation. And this is a lead generation advert. So like, I just want a low friction, easy way, quick way to respond. I'm just going to text the keyword in. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm right next to my mobile phone. I'm not next to my laptop. I'm not next to my, anything else. So much easier for me to do that. So
that's that. I mean, I'm just thinking about my book now, but like, that's so cool. Like, yeah, it just makes so much sense. It's like such a modern way of doing like just saying, oh, if you want to see the example of the video, just text in ABC to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
But the fact that you can do that and then it can be sent to you to be like, here's the video and here's my notes around it, which you can always update, which is really nice as well. So you can always like, oh, to find out more about different videos we're now testing, click here or something like that. It means that you've got this book that's got the foundation, but then it's got applications off the back of that through a text message. And I think that if I'm listening to Audible on my phone, I can go and do that. Or if I'm reading the book on the beach, for example, where I get very bad reception, but I might get good phone reception, it's like all of that process is easy for me, which I love. That's just so cool. This is one of my favorite episodes now, Oli. Thank you.
Oh, good. I'm glad. The thing is, it's a bit like, so I do this from stage to get people to text me for the slides from stage.
I've seen this before, yeah.
If I asked all of those people, can everybody just pull out their laptops? And what I want you to do is go and open your browser and go to this website and
you crash the browser anyway. You crash the.
Make sure you get all the right information. Oh, what's up? The Wi-Fi is not working.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. My presentation now doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. So this works extremely well. But here's the thing. So you mentioned this and before, and I just wanted to kind of go, well, where's the application for this as well? Facebook lead ads. What do we know about Facebook lead ads? We know Facebook pre-fills the information inside a form, inside the Facebook environment, doesn't take you outside of the Facebook environment. The chances are, because of the security and privacy stuff, not privacy, but the security stuff with Facebook, Facebook has a lot of mobile phone numbers. So it will pre-fill mobile phone numbers. That's usually on a landing page, something that you probably don't want to ask for because it's going to reduce your conversion. But here's the biggest thing that I would say, and the mistake loads of people make, and it's the simplest thing that, even if you don't take away from anything else from this episode, please take this away. And that is this. When you start thinking about creating marketing, a sales funnel, whatever it is, whatever it's for, begin with the end in mind, just like Stephen Covey said. The reason why is because guess what? If you need, just like my audience, and probably a lot of people listening to this, need to talk to somebody to make a sale, at some point, all the first name and emails in the world are not going to help you. You actually need somebody's phone number. Now, it might be at some point in the dialogue, at some point in the future, you might need to get that, or you want them to call you. But when you can get it so easily and so quickly in advance, knowing that you need to have a dialogue with them to follow up with them, Facebook lead ads offers a great opportunity for you to get that up front. And what's best, because we find that Facebook lead ads still, although there's a desktop opportunity, work well on mobile. The congruency between the response mechanism and the delivery mechanism is so tight that if they're already on their mobile phone and it's to text to get, to say the opt-in is to get a free video, I'm not going to send them an email with that video. I'm going to send them a text message with a link to go and watch that video. Because they're already on their mobile phone. I'm not going to go and send them off and hope. Like, people opt in for stuff every day. Why wouldn't I get all of their information? Sure, use email as a backup plan, or maybe do it simultaneously. But now what we find in lead ads is we'll say to them, do you want us to text you a link to this video? If it's a video, yes or no. If they say yes, we send them a link to it immediately. The open rate of that text message is like, well, it's super high. And huge, yeah. Because of the wizardry of how we do it, we can even track that they click. We can see how much of the video they watch. We can then even text them again based on the fact that we know they're still on the mobile phone when they watch the video to say, text back, scale of 1 to 10, how interested are you? Based upon their response, then we can then send them to a sales team, yada, 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 yada. So that is a good example of a traffic mechanism, or a traffic source, and a mechanism to capture those information, and a delivery mechanism that all works very well with text messaging.
Very cool. So let's go on to the software then. What sort of software are you using for this?
So we like Infusionsoft, as you know, and we use Fix Your Funnel with Infusionsoft to be able to do this very, very painlessly, very easily. Works extremely well for us. So I would highly endorse anybody that's using Infusionsoft to use Fix Your Funnel. If you're can you send
the text messages through Infusionsoft? Like a broadcast text message
through Fix Your Funnel, but it's working with the contact information from Infusionsoft.
Got it. Okay, so Fix Your Funnel is sending the text, but it's bringing in the data through Infusionsoft. Okay, got it. Okay.
And if you're not an Infusionsoft user, then you will want to consider their alternative platform called Engage CRM. Now, Engage does something similar, works off a very similar thing, but just is agnostic to platform from that standpoint.
Okay, so if you so go from my perspective then, because I'm not using Infusionsoft at the moment. Came away from it, just so you know. I know it can do amazing things, but just for our agency, I don't think it was the best fit for us at the time. But I mean, in terms of if you don't have access to Fix Your Funnel or Infusionsoft, is there a piece of software out there that does this? Is there a kind of like a way in which it integrates? Oh, Engage. This is actually the one that you would recommend. Oh, so is that part of Infusionsoft, or is it a new thing altogether?
It's a separate platform. It's actually made by Fix Your Funnel, but for people that don't have Infusionsoft.
Oh, okay. I see. So it's part of Fix Your Funnel. Fix Your Funnel, quickly give like a 10-second intro to Fix Your Funnel. What's Fix Your Funnel do?
So Fix Your Funnel is a third-party platform that works with Infusionsoft that allows you to do a number of things. One is to do SMS conversations, which we're talking about here, automated SMS conversations, text conversations. Mm-hmm. Also allows you to have a dialer. Now, a dialer means you could have a phone team with they click a button and it will dial the person straight from Infusionsoft. Also allows you to have a dashboard where you can actually have two-way conversations with text messages going backwards and forwards, all in a stream, very easily. You can do really a whole heap of SMS-based things with Fix Your Funnel. You can do broadcast SMSs. You can do MMSs, which are multimedia MMSs, multimedia text messages. You can track numbers coming in and set lead sources. And so you can have multiple numbers, multiple lead sources. There's lots of things you can do. Very
and works internationally as well.
Works internationally very well as well. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool. Interesting. So Engage is the one that could be interesting for the other thing. Good APIs that work with other CRMs and things?
Yes, there's an open API with it, so you don't.
Oh, sweet. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm getting very geeky for listeners. I apologize. I'm just trying to play this through to my business, which is kind of why we set up the podcast in the first place, isn't it? Like for you and I, just to help each other out.
Yeah.
So listeners, you're just getting a free ride, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you might be interested in, I know that you're very aware of lead ads, obviously, but one of the things you might be interested in is a Google thing called click to text message extension with Google AdWords.
I have seen this, yeah.
What this allows you to do is to essentially get a phone number not just an email, not just a website visit. You know, you're getting a phone number like lead ads. One tap with your with a tap on the ad will bring up your messaging app on your phone and pre-fill it with a keyword. That keyword can then automatically begin a text message conversation with you, in exactly the same way as we just spoke about. So we've just been using this in our business with Google AdWords. So when, one of our businesses requires to give quotes out to people. And so they go to local search with Google AdWords and they type in window tinting, whichever area they are. AdWords, when they click the ad, AdWords pre-fills it with quote as the keyword. Now that gives us the context, so we know it's a quote. It comes into Fix Your Funnel and it says, so I can get you a quote, what's your name? Give you your name, so you text back your name. Great, thanks name. What are you looking to get a quote for? So again, we get to get that. These all come into Infusionsoft. Then it says, perfect, I'll give you a call shortly. What's the best time of day? And then they text back. Now we've got all of that rich information to be able to then begin calling them straight from a Google AdWords extension.
And that's all automated for you as well.
That's all automated. Yeah.
That's really good, isn't it? That's really, really good. Love that.
So one of the other things that you can do, which is really neat as well, is you can actually attach your V card to a text message. Now you might wonder why the hell would I do that? Well, when they initially text in, you can say, here's my details, save them to your phone. Now, the reason why you want to do that is because now you're essentially inside their phone. So in a year down the line...
Not physically. Not you physically aren't inside the phone.
Oh, no,
just to clarify that.
Creating all sorts of havoc inside their phone.
No. Well, not just the phone, for you as well. I think there's a few problems going on from both sides of things.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah. But a year down the line, if you text them, and they're like, who the hell is this guy? Like, I got his details from Stage, I got it from a podcast, I got it from a direct mail piece. It will tell you that person's name, so it will have my details in their phone. But here's the...
So Ollie Bilson sent you a text message.
Exactly. The neat thing is as well with a V card, you can put landing pages inside your contacts. So now, and also if I'm like a bricks and mortar type person and I've got multiple locations, I can put my locations all in my V card as well.
Nice. Okay,
so
that's really
there's
cool.
a lot of things that I can do as a result of that to make text messaging work for me from a traffic standpoint. And when I do that, then I can get into their phone, as I put it, with having a V card attached to that, so they can keep my my details on their phone, which works well. And what's the nearest thing you do? You know, if I said to you, "Hey, I need a plumber," the first thing you do is go to your phone to find the contact, to share it. So it's a perfect referral tool from that perspective as well.
Very cool. So if we're to summarize things, I'm just trying to think of like, for the viewers, I know how I'm going to start using it, but for the viewers, I'm sure that everyone's got lots of different ideas. I think the first thing to start off with is kind of like, at what points of my business would it be easier to allow someone to go onto their phone and ask for more information than it is to go online? Because I think a lot of the time people are thinking digital marketing, online marketing, they're already online, but that's just not the truth. Typically they're actually not online at that moment where they're still engaging with you as a business. Presentations, books, kind of multiple scenarios where a text message would be easier for someone to do because their phone's on them constantly. So there's a sense of ease with the whole process for the user, which I love. And then from that, like if you can identify all those moments where that happens on a mobile version of your website, for example, there's a tap to sign in, that's great. All of that can be built and done once you've identified what those moments are with the Fix Your Funnel. If you don't have it, which integrates with Infusionsoft, if it's not Infusionsoft that you can use Engage, which is part of Fix Your Funnel's different platform. I haven't looked at it just yet, so that's my taking of it so far. So you can build all that stuff, and as a result, then you can look at this other way of generating leads, have a much better communication up front. You can get inside their phone, not physically, but metaphorically, and then you can actually have your details stored there. So when anytime they kind of like get a text message from you, it actually says it's from you and not from this random spiel of numbers. Mate, I love this. This is really cool. This is like, because I think that it allows the, there's one caveat to all of this, I think, that in the end that marketers will ruin this. But I love the fact that right now it's the perfect thing to have because it can be very, very done very personally. I think in a couple of years' time, if everyone's like latching onto it and starts using it like email marketing, everyone's going to avoid their text messages on their phone. That'll be the next conversation to have. But I love it right now. I think that's a great way of building a relationship in it. And it's not, as long as you're upfront with the fact that it's automated and it's not a real person texting, until the point where it is, say for example, you've got a dashboard and you actually are texting, that's completely different. But I love the idea of like someone goes online, says kind of, yes, I'm looking for a quote. Here's my name. Here's my other information that you need to understand what that quote needs to be about. That just makes so much sense. And to capture all that information, record all that information and begin that relationship in that way is a much slicker process than having to, if you're on your mobile, click to the website, find the opt-in box, click it, then kind of, it never works properly anyway. So then you got to like fill in your email address and you got to press submit. That's tough. That's a real slow, difficult process. So I love the fact that it's just tap and you go and you're off, which is nice.
Yeah, it's the same thing with ads. With lead ads, it's 2 taps and you've got their phone number, their email. I mean, that's a Facebook mechanism, but you're leveraging text as as the delivery mechanism. And the other thing is here, which is really comes out of the idea of not just automating this, but using it as a conversation tool, as you just mentioned, is this notion of, we call them conversation starters. Really what happens is in a funnel where we've been able to capture their mobile phone number up front, like we said, we'll begin with the end in mind. We need to actually speak to them. We don't want to speak to everybody. Like, I'm not going to be doing cold calls out to everybody, who I get phone calls for. They're just not qualified. But what's interesting is when I can have a conversation starter that begins to warm somebody up, I can say something like, hey, I noticed you downloaded or you watched the video. Did you have any questions? ? It's an open-ended question that allows us then to think about, okay, when I now get that conversation back, now I'm actually in dialogue with this person. Right? I got something back from them. Now I can move them towards slowly to where I want them to be. And so, this has worked very well, famously, I would say, for one of your clients, Frank Kern, and has been kind of like popularized for post-webinar follow-up. And he automates the initial conversation starter, which is, hey, I noticed you're on the webinar. What did you think of the concept? Now, he knows that they haven't bought, but they knows he was on the webinar, right? So that's an engagement starter. It's getting somebody to engage with you by saying, what did you think of the concept? Cool.
Yep.
Now, maybe they got a little bit further in the webinar. You could say something like, hey, it's Alsa from Ollie's office, or whoever it is from Frank Kern's office, I don't know. Ollie or Frank. Do you like the way that I'm just anchoring myself here to Frank? Anyway, Ollie put together a special bonus for 4 people. Would you like me to tell you more about it? So again, that's a conversation starter that when they come back to that, say, if they just came back and said, yes, I would like to know more about it, you can say, great. Do you want to schedule a call and we can jump on the phone? Or, by the way, here's a free video, go and check it out, or whatever. And so it's a really nice way of being able to do that. And I'm not going to claim the origin of doing this. I've been doing this for some time. I think that Frank actually had been saying that he's seen anything between 25 to 50% in additional sales post-webinar as a result of using this tactic, which for him, of course, is the difference of, $1 million or so more in sales. So it can be significant. So when you get round to thinking about, now I've got their details, because I began with the end in mind, I know that I can begin this conversation through that modality. It's exceptionally powerful.
Very cool. Oli, as always, very insightful, very informative, and very rich with your content as well. So thank you very much. And I'm going to be using this stuff in the book for sure. So it just makes a lot of sense. And yeah, that'll be very, 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 very effective for my listeners and my readers of the upcoming book, which I just want to plug very quickly. I have an upcoming book coming out.
I couldn't tell you.
No, I don't know if I'm going to have to say this about 20 more times in different episodes for our 3.5 listeners.
Is it specifically going to talk about the path to purchase, Tom, in the book?
Well, I'm going to have a text message for that for sure. Do you know, I'm not sure if it does or not. I have to read it. So I've done the ghostwriting process, and they've written it, and it looks really good so far. So very, very happy with the whole process. But yeah, done it with bookinabox.com. If you don't know about them, check it out. They're friggin' amazing, actually, to be honest. I've done it with another service provider before, and they mucked it up completely. So I went with this company this time, and they've absolutely nailed it so far. So very happy with the whole team. And they should have my book in early August published time. So that'll be very exciting. And then I'll have to put some sort of campaign together to sell the damn thing, as well as start getting a campaign built. But yeah, we're still umming and ahhing on the title, so that will be coming out soon. And as soon as we know what it is, it's ready to go. So very excited. But I'll be sure to let listeners know where they can go and buy it when that time comes. And maybe, Oli, we should do a text message process to see if we can get that built out as well. That'd be very exciting. But we should also do this for this podcast, I think, as well. Show notes, text this number for show notes or something. That'd be cool.
Definitely.
Alrighty. Thank you very much, guys, for listening, and speak to you very soon. Cheers.
Cheers.